Imagine you are 60 years old, you haven't eaten in 3 days, and suddenly, alone in the dirt with no witnesses, you pull up a fortune. What do? This was the reality for Abu Zulekha in Mecca. In the sweltering heat of Ramadan, he was the sole provider for his wife and daughters, and he was failing them. His body was reaching its limit. After 3 days of empty fasts and 0 wages, he lacked the strength to even stand for his prayers. He was a man hollowed out by hunger and the weight of his family's suffering. Driven by desperation, he wandered to a desolate valley on the outskirts of the city. He sank into the soil, aimlessly digging with his hands, when he struck a silk pouch. Inside were 1,000 solid gold coins. The physical sensation of hunger vanished instantly. A rush of relief swept over him as he stared at the gold. In a heartbeat, he could see the end of his family's agony. But this discovery was a trap. It was the beginning of a brutal psychological stress test. His survival instincts were now on a direct collision course with his moral boundaries. Starvation forces the brain to rationalize. He could borrow a few coins for a single meal and replace them later, but he rejected the logic. In his faith, taking another's property is haram. Stolen bread would destroy his character when it mattered most. He brought the untouched bag home, but his wife, Kulsum, caught him hiding it. When he showed her the gold, her reaction was immediate, a desperate, tearful hope for their survival. Kulsum made a difficult, rational plea. She spoke as a mother watching her children wither. She argued that God had provided this fortune as a gift, and ignoring it was an act of cruelty toward their own daughters. Abu Zulekha's response was absolute. To protect his soul from the pressure of his own household, he told his wife that if she touched the gold or spoke of it to anyone, he would divorce her immediately. Outside, a man named Zaid bin Khalid stood silently, overhearing everything through the thin door. He was moved to tears by the tragic severity of the old man's resolve. Resisting your own internal justifications is a battle, but refusing the desperate pleas of the people you love requires a rare, almost superhuman level of conviction. The next morning, still starving, Abu Zulekha carried the gold into the heart of the city to find its rightful owner. He found a Yemeni merchant in the marketplace, loudly announcing the loss of 1,000 gold coins and pleading for their return. Abu Zulekha sought a compromise. He asked for a 10% reward, 100 coins, so the finder could legitimately feed their family. The merchant refused. Desperate, he lowered the request to 10 coins, 1%. Again, denied. In a final, humiliating plea, he asked for a single coin for water. The merchant refused. This was the peak of the irony. He held immense wealth in his calloused hands, yet he was morally and legally blocked from using a single grain of it to save his own life. Islamic tradition defines sabr through the active preservation of principles, specifically when a person has the immediate power to abandon them. It is the deliberate choice to remain in the crucible. Abu Zulekha eventually surrendered to his duty. He brought the merchant to his home and handed over all 1,000 coins. Every single one was returned. The merchant gathered the gold and walked away, leaving the family exactly where he found them, starving and destitute. Then the heavy footsteps in the dirt suddenly stopped. The merchant turned back and returned to the old man. He revealed that the entire situation was a test dictated by his late father's will. He had been instructed to find the most destitute man in the city who possessed absolute tawakkul, an unshakable reliance on God. Because Abu Zulekha had passed every phase of the test without compromising his integrity, he met the requirements of the will. The merchant handed him the pouch. The entire 1,000 coins now belonged to him. Abu Zulekha looked at his stunned wife and realized the weight of their victory. By refusing to consume a single stolen coin when they were at their lowest, they had gained a lifetime of security through legitimate means. His steadfastness in the face of absolute ruin transformed his survival into a legacy. By holding out against the temptation of a single coin, he preserved the character required to inherit the 1,000. His first act as a wealthy man was to leave his home and search the streets of Mecca. He began looking for other starving families, intent on sharing his new fortune with those still suffering. Abu Zulekha's legacy suggests that moral strength is twofold. It begins with what a person refuses to take while starving, and it is perfected by what they choose to give away once they are full.